Welcome, friends. Whether you're out on a walk, running errands, or relaxing at home, it's wonderful to connect with you. Joining us today is a fellow Mic Drop Academy graduate, Amy Siegfried, and I am very excited to have her here. Now, before we really invite her on, I need to tell you a little bit about Amy. Now, for more than 20 years, she has effectively engaged with millions of people to build confidence, foster connections, and facilitate meaningful collaborations, from corporate networking on a national stage to living and working abroad to starting two successful companies. Her experience has honed her ability to become a master of small talk, creating a profound impact. Amy, welcome to Phoenix and Flame.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you.
This is really interesting. So the whole idea of collaborating and conversing and being able to connect with people, it's really a huge deal. I hear it so much of the time when people are talking to me, whether personally or they're in my office, and they really have a lot of, we'll say, hitches in their get-alongs. They have a lot of anxieties. They have a lot of neurotic. They've got these narratives going on in their head that's preventing them. So first of all, let's just kind of rewind and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to this place where you're so interested in spending your time focusing on helping people to make these networking connections.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited. And I would say it really started off, this was not my bag, right? I started off as that awkward kid, like so many of us are, that was just trying to just do the status quo so I could fit in. Like, could my mom maybe buy me the shoes that look like the thing they need to be? And that wasn't happening. And so it was one of those where this is not something I was successful at. I was not successful with connecting with people when I was younger. And it really started slowly but surely as I started being myself, as I worked through my career and I started being myself, more people oscillated and resonated with me and be connected with people. And, I've moved quite a bit, but I spent a majority of my years, college and post college in Phoenix, Arizona. And then my husband and I moved to Singapore where we had to start all over, new cultures, new people. And it was one of those where it was like, okay, you kind of get to reinvent yourself because nobody knows who you are, who you were,
Yeah.
but also you've got to go be you. And so it was one of those, once again, when I was myself and I was vulnerable. And vulnerable doesn't have to be, we're talking about like our feelings of our youth and like breaking down on a couch. Vulnerable is saying, hey, we're in Singapore. I don't have any friends. I'm scared my dad is sick. I don't know where to go get groceries. I hate being here by myself when my spouse is traveling, whatever that might be. I can't figure out the train system and I'm really confused and everyone else has got it figured out. Whatever that might be. And it was like those vulnerabilities then allowed me to connect better with people because they saw something in me that they saw in themselves. And that commonality became something that when I was vulnerable, we found a commonality that we connected with. And that was such a huge mind-blowing opportunity for me. Like, wow, people like me when I'm myself. This is strange. And so it was one of those as we did that. And then we moved from Singapore and I started my MBA program at Notre Dame. And once again, was probably more myself and more vulnerable than I was ever in my entire life because it was COVID. I had a 1.5-year-old. I was traveling back and forth to Chicago campus every other week to do class for 3 days straight. And so it was one of those where it was like, I don't know what's going on in my own life, let alone you try to teach me accounting. Like accounting is, no offense to accountants, but accounting is not my love language. I just did not do well in accounting. And so it was one of those where it was like, I had to ask for help. And at the end of our session, they asked people to stand up and talk about the person who made the biggest impact on them in their session in this past year and 18 months. And I had 2 people get up and say, it was Amy. And I'm like,
Did that surprise you?
it blew my mind. 2 people that I were like ex-military, like big burly guys that like, it wasn't that I thought that like I said, I was asking for help. I was most vulnerable I was in my life. But I also got to have a really good time, right? I met a lot of new people. We had a lot of fun. I just got to be myself. And so that continued to evolve and like, wait a minute, me being me, like, how can I teach people also that they have something to offer? And I came back and started doing being an adjunct professor at two different universities. And so I learned in talking to the students and how uncomfortable they were talking to people.
Mm.
They were trying to solve problems via text. And they're like, well, I text him and he doesn't understand. I'm like, well, how about you guys sit next to each other anyways already in class? Why don't you just talk to him and say, this is what I feel. This is how I want to work on this or whatever it might be. And they were like, oh, wow, now we're friends. We're going to lunch next week. I'm like, yeah, it's just like, it's a simple conversation, but everyone tends to be just so uncomfortable. We're so easily, like, it's so easy to digitally talk to someone, so easy to text someone. I mean, I'm no different. Like, I texted a handyman this morning to work on something because I didn't want to pick up the phone and call.
It's so efficient.
It's so
We're
efficient.
so busy. We're spinning so many plates. It's just like the most efficient. So, Amy, let me pause you for just a moment
Yeah,
because as I'm listening to you talk, I've got a couple of questions, and I've tried to
please.
jot them down so I wasn't going to interrupt your flow. So, my first question is, how does somebody, because I'm thinking of my listeners and I'm thinking about the
Yes.
different types of personalities that might be, out walking and listening to the podcast right now and seeing themselves in what you're saying. My first question is, for the people that are having trouble
Mm-hmm.
finding the courage to be themselves,
Mm-hmm.
what do you see? What would you offer them when they're just scared to be themselves? And this kind of segs into my next question, and you might kind of meld them together. They might kind of come together in your answer. Is also, what do you feel like are the main obstacles to connecting or
Mm-hmm.
communicating? Those are like two different things, but they're kind of interwoven. So what about people that are listening that they're just listening to you describe this, and just the thought
Makes them
of
sweat.
being honest and vulnerable freaks them out? And
Yes.
so how does someone like that, w- how do they find the courage to do it? And number two, what are the main obstacles to this connection, this networking that you're encouraging people to do?
Sure. So I would say just start. I think that action is biggest thing you can do. And that action can look like you connect with someone on LinkedIn. You go comment on something on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever that might be. Maybe it's someone you love and you follow and you think that they're the best person in the world. I don't know. I'm trying to think of someone interesting. Selena Gomez. You think she's amazing. Go comment on her photo. That's okay. Right? A nice comment would be nice. But like, just comment, just get started. If there's someone you want to reach out to, just do it. And so I think that's the small piece of, we have to have the confidence, but you're never going to know what the answer is if you don't ask. And we say that in our house all the time. The answer is no unless you ask. And so for me, it's those small pieces and knowing that everybody else is doing it. I was talking to someone the other day and they're like, well, men don't ask other men for coffee. And I was like, I don't know what world you live in, but I see guys at coffee all the time. And I have guy friends and my husband, they have mentors. They go to coffee, they go to lunch. Like, this is not just a female thing to do. People are doing it all over. Maybe it's not what you're seeing in your friend group, but people do it all the time.
Mhm.
And so those asks, so that's kind of take that into account. But when it comes to getting started, so like I said, that might look like commenting on someone's LinkedIn post, raising your visibility. That might look like, hey, I connected with Dana on LinkedIn. She seems really awesome. I'd like to connect. I'd like to learn from her. So then DM Dana and say, hey, I really love what you're working on. Your podcast is my favorite. I listen to it every week on my drive to the office. Here's what I love about it. I'd like to learn a little bit from you. Could I have 15 minutes of your time? You would be surprised how many people will say yes. I have a
See,
girlfriend who's, go ahead.
well, I was going to just throw in what I love about what you're saying is that it gets people's focus off of themselves and onto the other person, because I
Mhm.
think our anxiety is about our own insecurities and our own failings, and we get so focused on that we can't get past it. Because what I'm hearing you say is focus on the other person and what you like about the other person, and wanting to connect with them and learn from them, and that kind of shifts our focus away from our own fallibilities and our own weaknesses to what we like about someone else.
Yeah. And I think we tend to, when we ask people stuff, we're like, oh, we're asking them for something big, right? I'm asking for something. And so this is like, they're going to be indebted to me, right? Like I'm asked, or I'm going to be indebted to them. I'm asking them something. Really, you're not. Remember, a network and creating this network of champions, of people who will say your name when you're not in the room, that is a two-way street. A network is purely that. It's not one way. If I have a mentor or a mentee, I'm a mentee, we're learning from each other. And so I like to tell, especially my college students, because they're coming into these careers, they're watching people get these internships, they're watching people on social media do these amazing things. And they're like, what do I have to offer?
Mm.
Everyone is good at something. Everyone has something to offer. I guarantee if you sat down with Mark Zuckerberg right now, you would have something different to teach him than what he knows. You have an area of expertise that he does not have. And so when you really think about that and you look at it from that perspective of you have something to offer, the way you are right now is perfect. That is the way you are. You have had life experiences that are different than, if you're talking to me, like we've had different life experiences. You can teach me something about something I have no idea about. We can find things that we have in common. We might both like coffee. We might both like French fries. I love French fries. I'd totally meet you. Someone be on me and ask me to get for French fries, I would be in.
In there.
Yeah, I mean, but it's one of those where you're going to find those commonalities by asking really, constructive, smart questions, but also, and not even smart questions. I'll follow up in just a second that thought. But it's like you have something to offer. You have something to teach me, but also we can find some commonalities that we can have a conversation. And part of that is when you're talking to someone, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's face to face in a coffee meeting, ask questions. Be curious. If you need to put on the pretend I'm a journalist hat and you want to ask questions of, Dana, how did you start your podcast? Why did you start your podcast? What are some of the challenges you've seen? These are just things that I might purely just be curious in my head about, but
Mhm.
that's an opportunity for us to talk. And then as Dana talks, I think, oh, wow, I can connect with her about that. She also struggled with childcare. She also struggled with having to parent her parents. She also struggled with starting a business and feeling like she didn't know what the heck was going on. Whatever those things might be, we have these things all of a sudden. I'm like, wow, we can make these connections.
When we're leveling up and we end up comparing ourselves, and when we're looking at someone saying, "Oh gosh, she's so much better than me," or "He's so much better than me," and we tend to like shy away and we don't want to engage because of the comparison. What I'm hearing you say is, instead of comparing, connect, and looking for those connection points, those commonality points that we have, rather than comparing.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a huge thing to remember. You really nail it too. When we're trying to, we'll call it level up or network up, remember that those people are still human, right? I might look at someone and someone might say to me, oh, you've done these things. And it's like, yeah, but I'm still a human. I'm still uncomfortable in my own skin sometimes. I'm still not getting enough sleep, not eating enough fruits and vegetables, whatever that might be. Sometimes I want to hang my child by his toes. Like those are all things that we do. And I mean, we were talking earlier about just implementing systems, and I don't know how to implement this. Do you know? And so it's one of those where everyone's got those things. And I know that's so easy to say,
Mhm.
and it's so easy to say, but also know that part of our job, if you're leveling up to someone, part of the job of the person in the up is to bring people with them, right? So that's part of what we do. Not everyone thinks that way, but I don't know many people who would say, no, I'm not willing to speak to someone who's, reports to me, or someone in a different level at a job, or someone who's a college student. I've never encountered anyone. I shouldn't say never. There's probably one I can think of that people don't do that. And so I was kind of thinking this story that might relate. I have a girlfriend who's raising funds for a company she started.
Okay.
And she started reaching out through LinkedIn. And so she's reaching out to LinkedIn saying, hey, I'm raising this round, my seed round. Here's my company. Here's what we do. Would love to have you consider investing in us. So she's sending these out, but she's personalizing them. And when you think about it in one way, you think about it, she's asking people for money. But if you
True.
think about it from the other perspective, an investor's really happy to have a cool company that might come across their DMs in LinkedIn or wherever that might be and say, wow, what an opportunity that this person reached out to me. I will definitely give 15 minutes to hear their pitch. So you can put it in two different perspectives, right? Put yourself in the other person's shoes. If I'm the CEO of a company and an intern comes to me and says, "Hey, I really want to learn from you," I'm doing something right that the intern wants to learn from me.
Mhm.
And so just put that in their perspective. You can teach them things. Like, I love my college students because I learned so much from them. I learned about trends, I learned about what they're interested in. I learned all the things because I want to also be slightly relevant, right? I want to learn and be like, okay, I don't want to be the person to be like, what's TikTok? I would like to know what TikTok is. I want to participate. I want to be active in it. I may not be the one doing all the perfect trends, but I want to learn about it. And so when you really think about that, it's truly a two-way street and it's a mindset shift. And I think people think of networking and building that network is so transactional when it's really a relationship building tool, right? You've made friends your entire life. This is no different. When you think about how you make a friend, right? You like meet each other. I don't know if you're in, we'll use college for instance. You're in college and you're like, oh wow, you're in the room across from me in my dorm. You also like, let's go back to French fries. You also like French fries? Let's go eat French fries. Now we're friends. I
Yeah.
see when you really think about it, it's no different than that. You're finding one commonality. It may be the fact that you live across the hall from each other. And so this is no different. You're developing these friendships and these relationships. It's not a network, it's not a business card exchange. It's a relationship building opportunity. And that mindset shift to me is such a huge piece.
That is really a huge piece, I think, because sometimes when people are thinking about the word networking, I think right from the jump, they're thinking, okay, I got to get all buttoned up. I got to be perfect. I've
Mhm.
got to really present my very best face out there for I can't let anybody see my weaknesses. I can't let anybody see what I don't do well because then they might not like me. They might not want to hire me. They might not want me on their team. I've got to be this person, this persona of myself. When really I'm hearing you say the opposite is true, that when we are comfortable and we own our own mistakes, we own our own frailties, we own our own failures, that makes us approachable. We calm down, the other people around us calm down. I want to take just a second, is kind of a funny thing. Of course, I'm a psychologist, I'm a psychotherapist. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've had this brain in my mind and in my head a long time. So when I was in junior high, I was actually watching people, and I was watching the ones who were popular.
Mhm.
And I would notice that, gosh, that girl over there is more attractive than the popular people. Why isn't she more popular? Or that girl over there has a better body. She has better this or better that than that girl over there who's popular. Why aren't the guys, hovering around her over there? Because she has better attributes physically than the popular girl. And so it was very interesting to me and intriguing. Why? And but there were people that were richer, right? That weren't in the popular crowd. And I started watching. And what I figured out is that the ones who were the most popular, the ones who attracted people like moth to flame, right? Were the ones that were kind of the most comfortable in their own skin. They were not the most physically appealing. They were not the smartest. They were not the richest necessarily, but they were so
Mhm.
comfortable with themselves that way everyone around them was also comfortable. And so they just drew this network around them. And that's what I'm hearing you say, to have that comfort level with our own frailties.
And it's true, and I can't say that that's something that, always comes naturally. I would say it's really been a practice for me. It's not something, I mean, I've been in a career for 20 plus, we'll call it, years, and that didn't start that way. I would sit in meetings and I'd have, like, a piece of paper and someone would say some word, and I'd write it down in a really small font at the bottom and be like, "I gotta go look this up when I get back."
Yeah.
And so, what I should have done is probably said, "Hey, after meeting, I really like to learn a little bit more about insert word here. Um, can I come to your office and talk to you about that? Like, I just want to learn, and it doesn't have to be anything new or I mean, anything like right now, but I'd like to learn about that." And I always was afraid someone would think I was dumb in asking those questions. But I was a journalism major. I shouldn't have to be able to answer the CFO's question, understand all the things the CFO is talking about.
Right.
And so if someone came to me and said, "I would like to learn more," I'd be like, wow, this person really cares. And so it's those little things where that confidence continues to continue to boost. I have probably asked someone a question. They gave me a positive response, so I asked it again. Asked somebody else something else, asked another question. I asked someone for coffee. They said yes. I went and I didn't die. And so we had another one. Like it's one of those, right, where it's that learned process of you've got to get comfortable. And going back to your comment about the most popular person at school, I watched my 6.5-year-old do this, and he's just that person. He's just a kind, nice kid where he'll hold the door open. He'll be like, "Mom, you look lovely today." He'll also tell me when I don't look lovely. So there's that too. But to watch him talk to people, and he just goes and says one thing. He doesn't have to be, stand up there and give his speech about who he is and what he does, and he loves to build Legos. He gets in there and he just has a conversation. "Oh, you also like trucks. I like trucks. Do you have a red truck at your house?" But he just makes people feel comfortable. And so if you can be that person to make people feel uncomfortable, even if you're uncomfortable, it's huge. And I think it goes back to that networking exchange. We get that gross feeling of like, let me walk into this, room of 10,000 young professionals and go make 3 contacts. Like those exist. And I've got a game that I like to play with myself for that one. But like, that's not networking. You picking up 150 business cards isn't going to help you build your network unless you take those 150 business cards, you make a note and say, met Dana at said event. She was drinking red wine and loves to disco. That's all I could think of. I used to like a disco. And and then if you go back to your desk and the next day or 2 or 3, you follow up with Dana and say, "Hey, would love to meet for happy hour. I've got this wine bar I like down the street." It's like you make those connections. If you do it that way, then yes, but still, once again, it's not about the business card exchange.
Mhm.
It's about the creating the relationship, because even if I call and say, "Hey, Dana, I'm selling this," Dana's not going to remember who I was unless I really tried to make that effort and put it all together.
So what you're saying is absolute gold. And as I'm listening to you describe it, and I'm imagining in my mind a large room full of a bunch of people, and you're standing in the doorway, and you've been given the edict. You've got to go in and you've got to make some connections, and you're like,
Yes.
shit, right?
Yep, that's exactly it.
So
I'm sweating.
just to be honest, that's what we're thinking. We're standing there, we're looking at all the people, and everybody's talking to everybody else, and you're like, how am I even going to try to. And so I love what you're saying about the follow-ups, because that's huge, because that's how the connection is actually made, where relationship is built to really build the future. So if someone's standing there and they're looking at this large room full of a bunch of people who all appear to be talking to each other,
Always.
how how do they get in there? What do they do? They know what assignment they've been given,
Mm-hmm.
but they're feeling very inept. They're feeling very insecure and like they don't even belong there. All those other people that are out there talking and chit-chatting and laughing and yucking it up with one another, they feel like they look like they belong.
Yep.
And I'm standing here in the doorway going, this is not, I want to go home. Right now, I just want to crawl under my covers. I'm going to pull them up to my chin and I want to act like this is not even happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we're adulting, right? So we can't do that.
Right.
So what do you recommend to that person that in order for them just to even break through that barrier, that mental barrier, so they have the option of following up at the wine bar?
Yep. So this scenario, like, it gives me sweaty palms thinking about it, because I had one that vividly remember was in Dallas. It was atop of this tall business building in the downtown. And I walked in and I even came with a friend, and I walked in and there were like easily 1,000 people in there. It was like young professionals networking. And I was like, oh God, what am I supposed to do with this? And so here's what I do even now. Like, I don't think this is like the most comfortable thing for everyone. I make it a game though. And that's, for me, is something I can do. Like if I walk in and I say, okay, if you meet 3 people and make 3 connections, you can go, like, you can leave. So whatever that number might be, if your goal is 10, it's 10. I need to meet 3 people who like dogs. I mean, you can really make this like, because there's something about it that you're like, oh, this is a game. This is a little more. I can leave if I get this done. So a scenario about an event I went to actually a couple months ago, I was a expert desk, and they had a reception. And so I was there talking about investing and some other things. And so I went to this reception and I thought, okay, everyone seems to know each other. There's all these ladies. I'm listening to some ladies complain about Mel Robbins, which I don't know how you complain about Mel Robbins, but they were. And like, I'm like, okay, that's not the one I want to go to. But it's like, it's really interesting, right? You start to look around and go, okay, they all know each other. I don't want to go in that conversation. I don't want to go in that one. And I just sort of saw two people standing at a table, and I took my sparkling water and I wandered over and I was like, what are we talking about over here? Can I join you? And they're like, oh, we just met each other because no one really actually knows each other. And so that's why you look at that room of 10,000 people talking to each other. Very few of them actually probably know each other. Some of those scenarios might be also like the bar line is a great spot. The food line's a great spot just to be like, what are you drinking tonight? Or, um, what did you do? Where did you come from before this? Like, there's just these little things. My number one do not ask question is, do not ask, what do you do for work?
Mm.
And the reason I say that is it's very narrow. So I like to ask people, like, what are you working on that's interesting right now? Or what are you working on right
Ooh,
now?
that's a good
Just like, what are
question.
you working on? Because someone might say, like, I'm renovating my house, which they're going to want to talk way more about than they would about the spreadsheets they're working on at the office.
Excellent.
So I would say, like, what are you working on right now? What are you working on that's interesting? What have you, like, what are the challenges? Like, but what are you working on right now tends to be like a good go-to because it doesn't feel awkward. Hey, nice to meet you in the line. We're talking, what are you going to have tonight? What are you going to have a drink tonight? Okay, what brings you here to this event? Oh, my boss made me come. Oh, mine too. What are you working on right now that's interesting? Oh, okay. Well, you're working on these sales pitches or whatever that might be. Oh, interesting. If I'm in sales, like, tell me about your product. What are you learning about? Like, what are you selling? What's the biggest challenge you're seeing in the market? Like, you can take that, you're renovating a house. I love HGTV. Can you really put I don't know, is subway tiles still a thing? Like, I don't know. You can put like a little bit of anything in there. So just know that everyone else is also feeling a tad bit awkward. So like, don't feel like you need to be like showing up and being like super person. That's not, I don't think it's, and not really most people's comfort zone. It's not mine included. And
And
so,
who is that anyway? Who is a super person, right?
right. And
It's
what does that
like,
look like? And where did we learn what good networking look like? You could pick up the phone and call everybody in your Rolodex, if you have a Rolodex still, in your phone, and they would answer your phone call. Does that make you a good networker? You can call anybody and ask for coffee, and you'll connect, and is that a good networker? Is someone who knows everyone in the room a good networker? Is somebody who has 5 really good friends a good networker? Right? It's a matter of what that looks like to you, what those relationships look like to you, and you're building out this group of people, and I call it your network of champions, like those people who are going to say your name in the rooms that you're not in yet. And if
mhm.
that's some really good friends, that might be some other scenario that looks more like a personal level, right? Of like, I really think Amy's great. You should think of her for, I don't know, a Cub Scout leader because she's awesome and has great leadership skills or whatever those might be, right? So you really think about like your network of champions can be however you create it and on the people you create it with. Like that's really what it comes down to.
I love that so much. And as you're talking about that, it reminds me of what we were encouraged to do in the Mic Drop Academy, because it's not uncommon. Like you go, let's say we are delivering a keynote and we're finished and we're engaging in conversation with the event planner. And obviously, we just spoke our keynote, so they're not going to want to hear from us again for a while because we already delivered ours. But we're thinking, okay, we need to have a person's name and we need to know. So, like, if I'm sitting there thinking, I know the perfect person who could talk to you, who could talk to your group about networking, and your name would come to mind and your face would come to mind. And I think, we were really encouraged to do that in that
Mm.
scenario. And that I think that's what you're talking about, so that we have such a connection and a knowledge with people that it's right there. We have it. We
Mhm.
can we're in a conversation. They're not even in the room. We're able to talk about them and what they know, what they're able to offer, how they're able to support other people, even though they're not in the room. And other people can do that for us if we have
Mhm.
connected with them and we've communicated. So I know our time is up here, but I wanted to ask you one last question, since my huge thing is boundaries, and that's I'm just my passion. So my last question is, when you think about your journey and networking and interacting with other people and snafus and different scenarios you might have found yourself in, how have you found boundaries to be of assistance to you and helping you to form these connections and to be able to communicate in these situations where you feel very uncomfortable?
I would say there's a couple of things. So early on in my career, the one of the biggest boundaries I put into place was I was doing happy hours, events, something for work every single night. So boundary that maybe didn't quite help the networking, but did because it helped me think about really quantifying and picking quality time is I used to put me time on my calendar. So every week I would put one night where I was supposed to be at home and do me things, whatever that was, a gym, whatever, me time. And so that way, every time someone said, well, can I have, are you available on Wednesday? And it said me time, I would look at my phone and be like, well, is this person more important than me? And that was a big boundary I put into place that has helped me regulate how much I'm giving of myself, because networking itself should be like second nature, not a second job. And so that's just the one thing I want people to think about is don't overwhelm your stuff. This things can be done from your couch on LinkedIn. Like it can be done on a much, it doesn't have to be a grand scale. It's quality, not necessarily quantity. And so I would say that's one of the biggest ones I've put in that have taught me to respect myself and my self time. When it comes to connecting with people, here's this is a learned one, and I'm still working on this. And it comes more on a friend level of really cleaning out. And, you want to continue to surround ourselves, like you said, with great people who build us up, who help take us to the next level, and whatever that might be. If that's me being a parent, if that's me being a business owner, if that's me being a speaker. And so I really have tried to take stock of who am I connecting with? And I don't want to say that, I don't mean this to sound mean, but it's going to like, is this person worth my time? And does this person light me up? And so that has been something that's a learned process. And I know not everyone has to like we have obligations. I get that. But that's something I've really, really been working on is like, I really need to make the best use of my time because I have such limited time. I mean, we've talked about we're working all these different roles
Yeah.
and still trying to keep the lights on and keep people fed at our houses. And so it's real. That's been a really key boundary. And the last but not least, as we talk about those boundaries and is this person worth my time? Remember that someone else's boundaries are not your boundaries. And that to me has been a benefit in marriage, obviously, but also in friendships. If someone can't hang out once a week, that's not necessarily I need to respect that boundary. I need to respect whatever that is. They've got things going on they need to handle or whatever what I think it should look like and what they think it should look like. But it's like you really need to respect where that person's coming from. If they don't get along with their parents, whatever the things are, right? Like
Right.
their boundaries are not your boundaries and your boundaries are not their boundaries.
I love it. I love that. Amy, this has been amazing. I feel like
You know?
that we probably could just continue to talk for
I
another 30
big thing we probably don't live in the same place was like you guys haven't gotten anything done. You've just hung out all week.
I know that's exactly what would happen. So let me make sure here. Now, you have what's called a 45 conversation starters guaranteed to create a connection. And that is on the network of champions.kit.com.
You can
Is
go to
that
networkofchampions.com and
okay?
you can find we have a whole list of great conversation starters, sort of like I talked about. Instead of saying, what do you do for work? These are great alternatives that are easy to, and we kind of have them categorized on here's one to ask when not just the initial icebreaker. Here's one to follow up with. And so it's a great list that I use all those myself.
That would be so, so handy to have. So they just go to networkofchampions.com
Mm-hmm.
and they can access more information about you because I know they're going to want to know, oh my gosh, I've got to get a hold of Amy and find out what all she has to say because it's amazing. So
Thank
have
you
them
very
go
much.
there and we'll get all of your social media handles here. So we'll get those in the show notes. So listeners, don't worry that you're not going to be able to know how to get a hold of Amy because we'll have it all down there for you. Amy, thank you so much for being willing to spend your precious time and your effort and just your wisdom here with me, my listeners, helping us to learn more about making connections, networking, and creating a network of champions. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. I appreciate you.
Guys, I know you've heard multiple things today that you're thinking, I have got a best friend, I have got a coworker, I've got a family member that needs to know exactly what Amy has shared. Take this podcast episode, copy and paste the link, share it in text, share it in email, put it on your favorite social media platforms so we can grow our Phoenix and Flame community and let people know You're not alone. Thank you for sharing your time with us. I hope the rest of your day goes great. I'm Dana on Phoenix and Flame.